Kia ora, good morning everyone, Richard here. One of the big improvements that comes with the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II is the performance of its in-body image stabilization system in video mode. Because there are some dramatic improvement in terms of the IBIS performance, so Panasonic now call this new system Active IS. When I reviewed the video footage that I shot in Japan, I noticed the video footage does appear to be really stable compared to the original S5, even though it was shot with a early pre-production firmware. But it's hard to really know sometimes when you are just checking a few videos, as there are so many things like how I walk or how I hold the camera or how many drinks I had that would all affect the final footage. So I did some controlled testing after I'm back in New Zealand. I mounted the S5 Mark II onto a solid rig with another camera that I want to compare with. And I shot some comparison side-by-side video this way, and this is a much more accurate comparison and to find out the performance of the camera's IBIS system. All the tests in this video were shot using a pre-production Lumix S5 Mark II, and most of the video were shot using the 0.74 pre-production firmware. So let's start with a side-by-side test shot with the 18mm wide-angle lens first. This is the focal length that a lot of people would use for vlogging style video. I compared it with the Sony A7IV, which is one of the most popular full-frame mirrorless camera in the market, especially for people who shoot vlogging videos. Pay attention to see if there's any wobbling near the corner of the frame, as that's usually the biggest issue when shooting with a wide-angle lens with the image stabilization system. The following tests were all shot with the 15mm equivalent focal length lenses. Again, I have two cameras mounted on the solid rack, and this is quite a bit longer focal length compared to the previous tests. I was also walking in just a normal way, so I really didn't do any ninja walking. What that means is the camera was shaking quite a bit, so it is really pushing the IBIS system a lot harder than usual. First, I want to show you what the S5 Mark II's IBIS system can do when you compare it to a camera that has the image stabilization system turned off. Okay, next I'm going to compare the S5 Mark II with a few other cameras from Panasonic, Sony, and Canon. In terms of price and specs, the closest mirrorless camera from Sony to the Lumix S5 Mark II would be the Sony A7 Mark IV that was released just about a year ago. And actually even the Sony A7 Mark IV is still about 25% more expensive than the S5 Mark II. But since Sony has recently released the new Sony A7R5, which according to Sony, it has a much improved in-body image stabilization system. So I thought I could do some comparison with the Sony A7R5 as well, even though some may say it's not a very fair comparison as the A7R5 is pretty much double the price of the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II. But just like I had previously compared the Sony A1 with the GH6, This time I want to see, if we just ignore the price for a second, how is the best IBIS system from Sony compared to the Panasonic Lumix cameras. So after doing all these side-by-side comparison tests, I think it is very clear the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II has the best in-body image stabilization system for a full-frame camera. This new Active IS system is definitely a big improvement even compared to Panasonic's previous IBIS system. It is noticeably better than the original Panasonic Lumix S5. It is significantly better than the Sony A7 Mark IV and the Canon R6 Mark II. And even when compared to Sony's latest A7R5, it's still much better. But what I'm most surprised is that the S5 Mark II appears to be also better than the Panasonic Lumix GH6, which has the most impressive in-body image stabilization system that I've ever tested. Now, if you're interested in the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II, this is just one of the many videos that I've created about this camera. I've also have a full review, my usual autofocus test, and more video about this camera. So remember to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss my other videos about this Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II.